I have a joke for you. Why don't you ever see elephants hiding in trees?
Because
I don't know, Dan. Why?
They would break their trunk.
No, I mean, they wouldn't be very good at hiding if you could see them, would they?
Okay.
Funny joke. Funny joke.
That took way too long to catch for me. That took way too long. Okay.
Womp. It's okay. It's all right. It's a thing that happens. Hello and welcome to episode 82 of the GameBrew podcast, the bi-weekly video game podcast where we sip delicious beers, discuss video games, and binge-watch 90s cartoons while eating sour gummy worms until we puke because we are adults. I am your host, Dan Otto Rocket Rotz, and I'm joined by Allison Regina Rocket Vandavander.
I feel hyper cool. I've never been this cool in my life, actually.
Chris Twister Rodriguez writes...
Shoobies.
And Alex Sam Dullard, writer.
They got sand in the potato salad.
What a squid. Oh, squid. On the first half of the podcast, we will be discussing our top 5 games from our childhood. And on the second half, we'll see how mean to our video games our parents were. But first, it's time for a beer. Yeah, pop it. Chris, what you drinking?
I'm drinking Victory Twisted Monkey because we couldn't find Sour Monkey at the local liquor store.
Beer dispenser.
I haven't had it before. It's a Belgian style blonde ale with mango, and it's kind of interesting. It's a little sweet for me. Like, it's kind of super sweet, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I find when you add mango to beers, it does add a lot of sugar to it, and that kind of makes it like that. But we were looking for Sour Monkey, right? That is
correct, yeah. Which I believe you had before, because I have a nice clip of you talking about Sour Monkey.
Ooh, Sour Monkey, so sour.
He's so sour. But I was looking for that because that's a good sour. It's a good friend of mine, Danielle's favorite.
Nice.
But yeah,
nice.
Victory makes good beer.
Victory does make good beer. I am drinking sour. I'm drinking a Sour Monkey right now. Nice. Yes, that's a nice Blastoise that you built there, Chris.
Thank you.
This is an audio medium. No one can see it.
It's an audio medium. I am drinking Sour Monkey. And yeah, I mean, I don't typically like sours, but
same.
It's one of the ones that I will drink. It's a sour triple, so it's 9.5 ABV. It is fruity notes from imported Belgian yeast, swirl through a precise souring. Pucker up for a bite of citrus-laden tang. There's some citrus-laden tang right here. Oh, it's so tangy. Oh, it's so tangy.
Yeah, what's interesting about mine is that it kind of has like the banana notes of like a Belgian beer or like a Belgian style blonde. Like you kind of get like with some of the wheats too. But then it also has mango, and then it's super sweet.
Yeah, and so
it's like a dessert beer.
That's kind of like and that's what they've been doing at Victory with the monkey. Like, there's a bunch of different monkey beers now, and I think it's because they're preserving that sort of Belgian banana-y flavor, but with whatever else they want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of breweries are kind of doing that because, like, Heavy Seas does that with Loose Cannon a lot. They have Tropicannon and then Double Cannon, Triple Cannon,
Quad Cannon,
like just Americannon. Which is like their American IPA or American Pale Ale.
More cannons than your body has room for. But that's what me and Chris are.
More cannons than the HMS Victory.
Topical.
That's a lot of cannons.
Yeah, that's a lot of cannons. We've got Alex, of course, is joining us on the podcast today.
Yay!
Alex, Yay! What are you imbibing?
I am drinking Gold Leaf by Devil's Backbone. Which is a golden lager. And I picked up a big old case of this when I was at the liquor store last. Didn't know that I was...
Had you had it before?
Yes. Yes, I have. I've been to Devil's Backbone a couple times because my wife's family used to live down there. And so when we'd visit, we'd go down there. But
nice.
They have a cool spot.
Yeah. After a day of being outside in the yard, doing a whole bunch of yard work and building things today, it is very refreshing. Yeah. Crisp, clean, and bready notes.
Ooh. Liquid bread. That's what beer is.
Delicious.
All right. Well, thank you, Alex. And Allison, our resident for our non-beer drinking folks. What are you drinking this week?
I made up this drink and I'm calling it the Allison Sour because I was trying to go thematically.
Perfect.
Is it sour?
It is sour because I added a load of lemon juice because I did not find it sour enough. So
now is that an imperial load
glass.
or a metric load?
That's a big glass
an Allison
of
load.
alcohol.
It is a big glass of alcohol. It's got a lot of lemon juice.
Okay.
It has blue curacao. That's why it's blue like my hair. It has lemonade and a little bit of bitters. I don't think I should have added the bitters. It makes it a little weird, but it's good otherwise.
But Allison, you're a little weird, and we love you just the same.
Oh, that's so true. It's a very fitting drink.
So it's perfect. You made it perfectly.
Thank you.
Also, the size of that glass means we might get Fun Allison, just like we had Fun Dan last week in the second half.
I don't know.
We did have Fun Dan last week.
How alcoholic is blue curacao?
Not very alcoholic. You'll probably be okay.
So yeah, we should be fine.
All right. So anyway, that's the alcoholic beverages which we're imbibing. What's everybody been playing? Alex, you played something kind of cool that's relevant.
Yeah, so I watched the SpaceX launch yesterday, and when I woke up this morning, and normally I'll cruise around YouTube and see anything that I'm subscribed to has some new videos, and jumped on the NASA stream, which was like 24 straight hours, and
Nice.
Today the Crew Dragon ship was going to dock with the International Space Station, and they were the guys at NASA were talking about how you can go to SpaceX's website and actually try your hand at it's a simulator that uses the same interface that the astronauts were using on the ship at the time to dock with the International Space Station, because there's a picture going around the interwebs with the different cockpits.
Yeah, I saw
in
that.
the space shuttles.
It was
and
really
it's like
cool
the
just to
Apollo
see.
ones, all of these knobs and stuff, and then the shuttle from the 80s and 90s kind of look like a crazy looking plane, and then the SpaceX spacecraft that just went up, it's just like 3 massive touchscreens.
Yeah,
it's just
iPads.
That's all what it
Just
is.
using iPads. That's all they're doing.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah, and it's really hard because you have to stay within all of these parameters in order to have a successful docking. And I have not been successful yet. I've tried twice. It takes a while. It takes like about 20 minutes to go through the simulator.
It's like pretty involved.
Makes sense. I mean, you wouldn't want to accidentally blow up the International Space Station or the spaceship that you're in if you're really doing it.
So I've got a dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
No sense.
When you say you watched the launch, do you mean like you went out back into your yard and saw like a streak across the sky, like going into the space, or did you watch like YouTube?
No, I just watched the YouTube. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if that was something you could see like from where we are.
By the time I thought about it, they were talking about how it was already like over Ireland, and so I was like, oh well, I missed that.
Nope. Damn.
Still, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And it was during the day, and so by the time it would have been in our area, it would have been pretty high up. So I don't know if I would have seen it or not. Yeah,
that's super.
Yeah,
cool.
that's.
I'll have to check that out.
It's pretty neat. And I know you've also been playing some of the Crew since we did the stream with that stuff. I know you've been hanging out with us in there. And I recently got you involved in the GTA 5 scene.
Yeah, which I really like the racing aspect of that game. More than the run around shoot 'em up aspect of that game.
That makes sense. I've always liked that part a lot more too.
Well, I think it's cool that they have people can make their own custom stuff, and it's just like it kind of has that MMO feel where like it's a place to hang out and do a bunch of different things. You could do a heist, you could do racing, you can fly planes, you can do all this stuff within the context of the game.
Right. And there's a lot of role-playing stuff. Allison enlightened me to the role-playing aspect that people do of it, which I don't want to get into right now just because that'll take a long time. But
there's lots to digest there.
Yeah, but Allison's got a lot of videos. We'll probably talk about it later too because I'm going to keep playing it. I'm going to go to Chris to see what crazy things he's been playing. Chris, what have you been playing?
I've been kind of going in and out with Divinity Original Sin 2, but I also started playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Assassin's Creed.
Is that
just because I wanted to start playing?
Is that the porn parody of Assassin's Creed?
Yeah,
Can you talk about that on this podcast?
Assassin's Creed.
No, that would be only if we were going to be on the family podcast. Because that's how you make a family.
Right.
I thought this was a family podcast.
No, it's not a make a family podcast. It's different.
But yeah, I was having the hankering for an action RPG, and this is very much an RPG and very, very little Assassin's Creed to it.
Interesting.
Like it's not much sneaking around. Like the whole point of the whole plot point, I guess, of like taking down a bunch of different leaders is still there, but like you're not really being sneaky about it because you're like a fully armored Spartan warrior.
Yeah,
messing people up.
You're not like,
which is cool, but it's
not sneaky.
It's not a stealth.
It's not like, ooh, I'm an assassin. I mean, that's probably going to be what Valhalla is going to be a lot like too, because I mean, I can't imagine you being a sneaky Viking guy going around.
Yeah, I
Viking
don't think so.
shit.
But it's a pretty good RPG.
Nice, cool. And obviously, like Total War stuff. You've been playing a lot of that. Right.
I try not to talk about it too much because I don't want to get yelled at for talking about it too much.
That's okay. Well, we haven't added it.
Of talking about
we haven't added it to the list of games we're not allowed to talk about yet, but maybe soon.
We should probably update that list.
We probably should. Allison, what have you been playing?
Final Fantasy 14. That's kinda
nice.
That and Animal Crossing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Lots of MMO action.
MMOs up the O. And
what have you been liking about Final Fantasy 14?
It's really pretty. As far as MMOs go, it's gorgeous. And there's a lot to love about like the customization of the characters and things like that. As far as like story goes, I haven't really got into the more than just quest BS. But yeah, it's really lovely so far.
There's a lot of those quests. Like I found myself doing it and it was just like so much. Like I got confused.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm enjoying the pets. I'm enjoying the mounts, and I'm enjoying the visuals.
Nice,
very nice,
pretty. Speaking of pretty things, I started to play Soma. I'm sorry, Allison. I wasn't going to talk about you. I know that's what you were making that face for. But the
I wasn't.
Rude.
Thank you.
Rude,
Chris. You know I only text those two things secretly. But I started playing. I started and finished Soma a few days ago. Bwah, 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 bwah. Which, if you don't remember, I think Will played a little bit of it for a spooky game.
I think he finished it.
Did he finish it?
I don't remember.
I think so.
Okay. Well, it's a spooky game, or it kind of starts out as a spooky game. It doesn't stay a spooky game, in my opinion, because it's a survival horror. First person game.
It was made by the same people that did
Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Amnesia.
It's a really cool sci-fi theme that really explores humanity and like kind of what makes you human and like like consciousness and this whole. It's really deep. I expected it to be scary, and then it hit me with all of the oh my gosh, what do I think of this? Do you guys want spoilers, real quick?
I mean, sure.
Spoiler alert.
The main plot point is basically you get your brain scanned as a human, and then it turns out that later your brain scan had been saved as a template to make a bunch of AI. So you wake up 105 years into the future, and the Earth is destroyed, and you're in this like robot body.
Oh wow!
And then it explores the whole. If your brain, like if there's more than one you, are you still you, or are you still somebody else? Or will the you that's there continue to be you? Or will the you that's here go insane because the you that's somewhere else is also you?
It's kind of like digging into some of like the Westworld, altered carbon type stuff.
Where it's very good sci-fi. I definitely recommend it. That was spoilers.
Good sci-fi is
if
good.
we want to cut it out, that's fine. Speaking of cutting things out, let's cut right into the first segment.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
That was smooth.
That was...
Thank you.
Nobody
See, Ian's
noticed.
not here. I get to do all the good transitions that I want. Speaking of good transitions, the first topic that we wanted to talk about today was something that I saw on Facebook because people were posting it around. I put the question in the Discord, but it was what are like the 5 most influential games of your childhood? So like if you think about being a kid and playing video games, because we grew up in the technology age, we had video games when we were small children.
And it was dope.
It was freaking sweet.
What a time we were alive.
What a time
like we
to be
were
like the right before the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were at the good
You
time
had
where
to-
we can
you had to-
appreciate things.
Like you still
You
had
had
to
to
be
write
social.
down the passcodes,
But then-
the cheat codes.
Right, but then later
Yeah.
we did get the internet. Best of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Right. We got to experience the good, the bad, the ugly.
Right. So I kind of wanted to go around. I do want to just shout out to the Discord because you guys gave us a lot of stuff to talk about and think about. I do have some stats. We got 60 games in total that people put on there. 34 of those games were Nintendo. So
Wow.
of people's top 5, 34 of them were Nintendo games, 9 were PC games, and 9 were PlayStation games. Which, I mean, that just shows the sticking power of, like, Nintendo was like
And
the
none
first
was
one.
Sega.
No Sega. No one.
Wow.
I mean, I think that's
No Sonic fans. No one was a Sonic person.
no Atari. No.
There were some Atari. There were definitely some Atari.
so, okay.
But not that many. I think there
No
were like 3
Dreamcast?
Atari. No Dreamcast. No.
No.
But there were a total of 8 Pokemon games on the
Wow.
on the list of everybody's top 5.
I think it kind of shows a lot about, when I was reading them, it showed a lot about the age of people who listen to us.
Right. Yeah. There we
Like,
got some old
I could
fucks.
see.
Hey, this one's out to you, you old fucks.
Like us.
I will say this was hard to narrow down to just 5.
Yeah, it definitely took some thinking. Like I sat and thought for a while.
Yeah, I changed mine a bunch of times and thought about it, and it was very difficult to narrow down.
So I got a shout out to the one person on our Discord, Frankenbeans, who
Oh, Frank.
Not only has a great name.
not only has a great name, but one of their favorite games from their childhood was Hercules on the N64, which I had to look up because it was based on the TV show Hercules: The Legendary Journeys,
Yes.
the Kevin Sorbo vehicle.
Did you not play that?
No, I didn't. I didn't even know it was a thing. But
Wow.
So one of Katie's treasured possessions is a picture of her with Kevin Sorbo.
That's Frank from our LGBTQ
oh,
plus
Frank,
episode,
that's
by
awesome.
the way.
Well, Frank,
Yeah.
I was confused and excited by that choice.
I didn't
Specific.
know this was a thing.
But it is.
It was a thing.
I wonder if it's
please look this up. It was really bad.
Okay.
But like you just go around and
Have you
it's like
played it?
really yeah, it's really generic. Just walk around, talk to village people. It was like
The Village People,
it was like
like
a
the YMCA
Zelda
type
ripoff. It felt like a Zelda ripoff. That's what it felt like. You just like do these tasks that you don't feel like Kevin Sorbo would ever be doing. And all the characters around you don't feel real. And they all are dicks. Like I just remember them all being like really rude to him. And I couldn't understand it. Anyway, it's a horrible, great game.
But shout out to that because it freaked
Yes.
me
That's
out.
amazing.
Yes.
But speaking of Legend of Zelda, Chris,
Yeah.
let's talk about your top 5 real quick. So first, why don't you give us a rundown of what your top 5 childhood games are?
Well, I mean, I don't want to spend a lot of time on a lot of these because I've put them in the ground pretty much, I think, at this point over, what is this, our 82nd episode. But Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Obviously.
Yeah. I still play that. It's on my phone. Medieval Total War was the first entrance into Total War for me. I bought it off the bargain rack at Walmart for $10 because it looked cool. And I have I think every single one that's come out since then. Diablo/Diablo 2. It was a lot of formative time in middle school playing that. I had to the point that I was having top-down dreams.
Wow.
In the Diablo world.
Just staring at the top of your head the whole time, walking around.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was weird. Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Classic.
I got this as a present from my grandmother, who obviously did not buy that, but my parents got it. And
that's classic. That's classic gift giving mentality. Is you tell the other people, "Hey, Chris really wants Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time." Then your grandma goes, "What is that? I have no idea."
And I basically got it and didn't know what it was. Like I played Link's Awakening before,
right?
But I didn't know where Zelda, Legend of Zelda, was going to take me. But I was glued to it, and I loved my guide for it. I had the one with the came on the front with the bow.
Yes.
Player's guide,
game guides.
Great game. And then KOTOR was the one I really wanted to highlight. Knights of the Old Republic.
The first one?
The first one. Because the second one was by Obsidian?
Yes.
I think so?
Yes.
The first one was definitely BioWare, though. It was the first big BioWare game, I think. But it was really cool because it was one of the first games where I felt like your choices really mattered. And you could have relationships with people. And it was on a different level compared to other RPGs at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I remember playing that and loving it, too.
Didn't realize that the kind of underlying system behind it was D&D based, which is kind of cool. I don't
think any of us did at that time,
No, but it makes sense because they'll show roles for it, you're making background roles for it. I had never played anything like that game, and it kind of brought me into that, and I think Diablo 2 were the games that really got me super into role playing games,
like RPG land
and skill trees.
Skill trees. Oh boy! Somebody go get Chris a change of pants. He just started talking about skill trees.
Skill trees.
Skill trees.
But yeah,
those are solid choices.
That's it. Yeah, no, it's a solid list.
Pretty solid.
That's a solid list. I think it fits your.
I had a bunch that I wanted to include, but I had to narrow it down to those 5, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's why I really liked this question, because it wasn't like it was going to be 5 things that were shocking to everybody that we were going to talk about necessarily, but to narrow it down to 5, I thought was interesting for me at least to try to do, because so many games were important.
And it was tough. I don't have a shooter on there, but shooters were pretty important to me too.
You really had
Halo
to think about it.
But you're still an RPG boy, and
RPGs,
you're an
RPG
strategy
boy.
Games. Strategy boy. Speaking of strategy boys, Alex, you made yourself a top 5 list as well. Why don't you go through that and explain? Because I said top 5, and this is more like a top 8,
10.
Yeah. All right. So,
but you have stories. You say you have stories.
So
it sounds like a cheater, but it's okay.
I'm going to revise my list as we go. So
okay.
For everyone that's listening to the podcast,
now I'm unprepared. Fuck.
Whenever I am on an episode, I somehow find a way to get everyone to talk about Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
I mean, it should be there. It should be on your list. If it wasn't, I would be upset.
And I would say Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 is probably the most influential. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 got me into skating, and it got me into that culture. But from a game perspective, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 was leaps and bounds above Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Mostly because it brought in the revert.
It's kind of funny, so, leaps and bounds.
You mean ollies and kickflips above, right?
Yes. Yes. But with the addition of the revert, you could do much longer combos, and it just added to the skill set needed to be good at that game. Then and it is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 is my favorite soundtrack of the first 3 as well.
Okay.
With
So
some classics being Blitzkrieg Bop, Fight Like a Brave, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Ace of Spades, Motorhead.
The Ace of Spades. The Ace of Spades.
Wish, Alien Ant
R.I.P.
Farm.
Lemmy.
I love that song.
Nice.
Yes. Yes, I think that game actually introduced me to Alien Ant Farm, and I went and bought their album and Blitzkrieg Bop. I was just like, I love this.
See, I think it had a lot of really cool songs on it. I don't know if it had the amount of ska that I wanted it to have.
And it
Like
didn't have Jerry Was a Race Car Driver.
It didn't have Jerry Was a Race Car Driver. He drove so goddamn fast. But okay, so Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, love it.
And then my number 2 game, I'm going to say, is Doom. And every major holiday when I would go to my aunt and uncle's house, my older cousin, he had a PC and he had the original Doom. And he also had an SNES. And so we would just sit up in his room and play games for hours and just hide from the rest of the family. Doom was pretty influential. Crash Bandicoot was awesome because
Huge.
most of the games that my brother and I played growing up were sports, and so we would play like triple play baseball against each other, or we would play Madden against each other. But Crash was a game that I could sit down and like play by myself. So that was nice. GoldenEye was the neighborhood game. It was kind of like what we do, playing games online, but we would all have to go to someone's house and
Got to go to your friend Terry's
play 'em
house
and
Couch multiplayer.
just got to be the guy who doesn't have the wonky stick, you know.
The Mad Catz controller.
And then I
like the Mad Catz ones. They fit my hands.
did not have a Game Boy actually until Pokemon Yellow. And so
Wow.
when Pokemon
Nice.
Red and Blue came out, I was sitting there like, I want to play. Please let me play. And then I finally got a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Yellow. And so that was
Nice.
that took up a lot of time, and is also, there's not a whole lot of games that I've played start to finish, and the Pokemon Yellow is one that I played through multiple times.
You have whap whap wad over and over
Whap
again.
whap whap.
All the waps.
So those are my games.
That's a very
Solid list.
Alex Writer list
It
right
is
there.
a solid list.
That's a solid.
Some of those were almost some of mine, but not quite.
All right. Well, speaking of yours, Allison, looking at your list, I called this like as soon as
Did you?
I did. Like whenever
should've had you write it out
whenever you
before
put
I
it
did
on
and
there,
see what
I
you
was just
said.
like, "Yep, that's it." Like I was like, "Yeah, that's the list. That's the list I would say."
Yeah, so mine I feel like it's pretty predictable, I guess, for me. But yeah, I felt like these were the most influential on my childhood. That was hard for me to just not pick games I really loved and just think what actually shaped my childhood a little more, because games was such a big part of me growing up. It was my childhood. So I picked Final Fantasy VII. We're not going to talk about it because we all know.
We all know.
But that was the first Final Fantasy game I played. So that's why that one's
On
there.
the list.
It opened me to RPGs.
Put it on there.
Pokemon Blue, that one came out in 1996. And I remember it vividly because we only had one Game Boy Color at that time. So that was the game that my mom bought us two. So my brother and I could both play Red and Blue. And that was huge. So we didn't have to fight over the Game Boy Color anymore.
Allison, remind me, who's your starter?
My starter is always Charmander.
Always Charmander. Okay.
Yeah.
Alex, you played yellow version, so it was
Yes.
Pikachu, right?
We weren't cool enough to get yellow. Like we couldn't con our mom into getting that one for us. But we had.
neither.
I actually had blue, and my brother had red. Ironically
Chris
enough,
is
when
a-
Charmander's my favorite.
Chris holding up
And
his Blastoise right now. Just
yeah, that game was just like game changing. I don't have a better way to say that without being
puns.
lame. So it was like, I remember that I needed a light for my Game Boy at that point because I wanted to play all the time and I was tired of leaning into the lamp in the living room. So we got a little light. We got the link cable so we could trade, which was just amazing that we could do that. And that's the only way you could get all the Pokemon. So of course we had to. And my brother and I, like, we would play next to each other and just like talk about Pokemon the whole time. I don't know. It was a really cool thing we did together, even though it was a separate playing game. I would play it everywhere, like on the car rides to the grocery store, on the bus rides to school. That game was just nonstop for me. And it ended up like being the game that opened me to card games, because then I wanted to play the Pokemon trading card game when it came out.
Right.
Because it came out like that fall after the game launched. So I went to Books A Million and I just like got really into Pokemon trading card game as well and doing that with people. So like that game was a life changer for me. The Pokemon is huge in my life. And then Fatal Frame. It was hard.
You've talked about a bunch.
Yeah, you talked about that a lot.
Bunch.
As being
hard for me.
Scary game of choice forever.
It is. It is forever. I almost put Silent Hill on there. I almost put Resident Evil. And then I was like, no. Because this one was more game-changing for me. It was more poignant, I guess. It was just a better story for me.
Puns again. Game changer.
Yes. I hate that word. Why am I saying it?
You keep saying it over and over again. Just don't say it anymore.
Can we edit
She's
it out?
say it so much more.
I know. Cut it out. And then Perfect Dark. Because GoldenEye was big, but Perfect Dark
awesome.
was bigger.
It was so much. It was so
for me.
Like GoldenEye was great. Perfect Dark took the formula for good multiplayer and was just like, you want auto turrets? You got them. You want freaking exploding homing the laptop gun? Yeah.
You want a strong female lead to make Allison happy?
Oh yeah,
you got it.
Strong female lead. She freaking killed it. Joanna Dark. So
Joanna
cool.
Dark was
she saved the president and aliens. Damn it.
Yeah, so that one was huge. My family played it a lot, so that was a real like me and my brother's game. So that was something we played relentlessly. Like they were into racing games and stuff that I wasn't necessarily as into. So this was a game we kind of all played together, which was nice. Me and my 3 brothers. Nice. And it also opened me up to other games like No One Lives Forever. This game made me want to play those games later, and that was an amazing game. So then the last one I picked, because there were a lot of sim games that were important to my childhood. I played them all the Maxis games, but The Sims, I still play. And
the original one you still play? Or
OG?
No, not the OG. I play the new one now, but like that game just like made a genre for itself that was so cool and impressive, and I got cheat codes for it. First time I've ever used a cheat code.
Rosebud.
And the community it built, like online communities in games back then weren't as fierce and heard of, but there were like this website called the Mall of the Sims, where you could go and people had created some stuff to make and put into your game and everything. Yeah, that game was really game changing for me. I did it on purpose.
Knew it.
I did it on purpose. Okay.
I knew it. No, you didn't. Don't lie. I guess I'll talk about mine. So I also put Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on mine because much like Chris, but because I copied him. No. But because it introduced me to the Legend of Zelda games. Like I never played any before that. It's still not my favorite. Like Majora's Mask is still my favorite Nintendo 64 Legend of Zelda game, but this introduced me, which was fine. Halo Combat Evolved. Very much like Alex said with the GoldenEye stuff. That's what my friends would play. Like we would all get together and play Halo for a long time. Or my dad would say, oh yeah, sure, bring on. Why don't you tell your friends we'll get another TV. We'll just hook all those Xboxes together, have a LAN party. And I'm like, yeah, Dad. He's like, I also got a big thing full of Mountain Dew, and I got a bunch of Funny and Stew. I'm like, wow, you're really playing into the stereotype, aren't you, Dad? Said 10.
Shout out to Dan's dad.
Shout out to Death Brats out there.
Yes.
Death Brats.
That's his name. He's great. There were 2 games that are on my list: Age of Empires 2 and Medal of Honor Frontline, because me and my best friends would play these games. Age of Empires 2. We would play on our own, and then like we would make like custom maps and stuff and then show them to each other. Like I remember my one friend Paul, he made a Lord of the Rings map where you had to get the ring to Mordor for Age of Empires 2, and I was like, awesome. That's so cool. because we were 13.
That's amazing.
But and just like the campaign was fun. It was kind of my first like RTS game, and I was like, it was pretty awesome. It was fun to kind of learn about history and play a game. And then Medal of Honor Frontline, but before I realized it was just Saving Private Ryan in video game form.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad.
Which it's not a bad thing. So many times we would just play, okay, we're just going to play like the bridge level where there's two sides of a bridge. It would just be two of us. We would just have sniper battles the whole time, which was really cool.
Nice.
But the one I think that I want to talk about is a game for N64 called Snowboard Kids.
I don't know this game. I read it and I thought you made it up.
I don't know if anyone really knows this game.
I remember 1080.
Or Cool Borders.
So Snowboard Kids was on the N64. It was developed by Rackdime and published by Atlas. It was basically like Mario Kart, but snowboards. Like you would pick whatever your person was. There'd be power-ups that you could get. There were a bunch of different playable. There were 6 playable characters.
It's 100% Mario Kart.
Yeah, it's Mario Kart. But here's the thing. Do you guys remember Blockbuster? Remember that being a place?
Yes, I love it.
Mm-hmm. So there was a time whenever you could rent video game consoles from Blockbuster. And before we had an N64, we rented an N64. And one of the games that we picked out because it was family friendly and we could all play it, my sister, my brother, and me, was this game because we were like, oh, it looks interesting. And it was like the funnest thing that my sister, who was 4 years older than me and my younger brother, who's 2 years younger than me, were playing at the time. And it was just really great. I have so many fond memories of playing this game that we rented from Blockbuster multiple times.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it just kind of like built us into like a little like, oh, we like video games in this family. It's kind of cool. We like to do this stuff together. Until one day, whenever we got an N64 and my brother went to go buy like we went to go get some games and we were like, oh yeah, get that snowboard game. And then I think either my dad or my brother got 1080 snowboarding, which was not Snowboard Kids. And we were very upset. But it's okay because 1080 snowboarding was great too. Just to kind of close up on this section, was anyone surprised by anything on anybody else's lists?
I was kind of surprised with Alex saying Doom because I didn't know that was like such a formative thing for him.
Oh yeah, that was and still like it didn't click to me until later that PC gaming was this big world. I just thought it was just like this one-off thing that my cousin had like secret access to. So I thought that my cousin was like the coolest guy ever. And it was like a really special thing because I would only play it on Easter and Christmas Eve and Thanksgiving. And so it was like super random, but even though he had like had the game for years and like in the late 90s, I was still like, hey, can we play Doom? He's like, I don't play that game anymore. Like, I'm like, but I really
there
want
was like
to.
one on each of your lists that kind of shocked me.
Yeah, at least I think I was pretty okay with everything. I think it was interesting to see how many people had like multiplayer games on stuff, especially on the lists for the Discord. Just seeing like, because it is like multiplayer games are a big deal. Like having people come over, sit down.
Those are the best.
Well, and
Even
setting
some
it,
games
like,
where it's like,
how different games did the split screen, and so
oh yeah,
like
some was like this, some was like the other one.
with Perfect Dark, that's where multiplayer. It was a split screen going horizontally, right? And that it made me mad because if you did 2-player in GoldenEye, it was vertical, and I was like so used to that when I went to play Perfect Dark, I was like, oh, it's messing with my mind. But now everything is vertical.
Screwing with my brain.
Right. Yeah. I liked being able to see better that way. I always liked that when they did that instead.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of seeing better, we'd like to see better what your top fives might be. And you can tell us that by going to our Discord at bit.ly.
That was kind of a sentence.
/
Almost.
What?
Very close.
That was kind of a sentence.
by going to our Discord. If you go to bit.ly/discobrew, go in there, tell us what your top 5 most influential games of your childhood was, or post it on our
just
Facebook.
say hi.
And just say hi. Come hang out. I've had people tell me that it is the most fun Discord they've ever been a part of. Just saying.
Allison
Really
brings
smart
the
people say
party.
this.
Really smart people do say this. So we're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back with our second half where we talk about what happens when mommy and daddy take away our Xbox. All right, stick tuned. Bye.
Hi, Allison here for a sec, and I just wanted to say thanks for your support of the GameBrew podcast. If you enjoy listening to us babble, like and subscribe to keep up with our episodes on your favorite podcasting app, or our social media, the usuals, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you prefer. And as a member of our GameBrew crew, we'd love to chat with you and build our gaming community on our Discord where we hang out, play games, swap tournament prices. So come chill with us in the Discord at bit.ly/discobrew. Throw us some topic submissions there or at thegamebrew@gmail.com because we're boring without you. All right, I'm done. Back to the episode now. Enjoy!
Hello, and welcome back to the GameBrew podcast, where we've been sitting in chairs, sipping on beers, and going on adventures. How's the beers treating everybody?
I wanted something less sweet, so I've switched to a brew free or die 21st Amendment IPA.
Yep. Nice. Got to get those IPAs in.
I have finished mine.
And she's just drinking straight schnapps now.
I haven't, but I have it.
As I said, she's just drinking straight schnapps now. I'm currently still drinking Sour Monkey because I'm on my second one, and it is very sour, so it goes very slow. Alex, you doing okay over there?
Yeah, I'm still drinking my gold leaf. So many leaves.
So many leaves.
Leafy boys.
Leafy things. Is it still as easy drinking?
It's very leafy. It is light like a leaf floating in the wind with only 4.5% alcohol by volume, 21 IBUs. The color is gold, and it is in a 12-ounce can.
Oh, wow. Now, and since you're painting us a picture with your words, what the can? Describe it.
What's the can?
It is a beautiful golden view of the Shenandoah Valley, and there is a lady in a canoe with her dog who's wearing a life jacket. Safety first, kids.
Safety first, everyone.
And the dog is in the canoe, and they're paddling down the river, going to a tent.
It's beautiful, Alex.
Sounds
I don't know if
lovely.
that's their
Alex,
tent,
that was
though.
beautiful.
Who knows?
Those are the people. That's the tent of the people they're going there to kill because they murdered their family.
Yeah,
Yeah, this calm can. It's not so calm.
There's actually
when you know
a
the
new
whole
video
story.
game called Canoe Raiders.
Oh boy! Well, speaking of new video games, that's not a good segue. I'm not even going to do that one. So we wanted to. I don't know how this conversation came up in the meeting because I wasn't there. But
So I can help there.
Yeah.
So Carrie kind of had a conversation with me about some things that have been happening and just happening more frequently and getting popular on like Reddit, especially, but different kinds of websites like that with parents punishing their children by destroying either content, accounts, or consoles and things, physical objects of children. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from. And I talked about it at the meeting and we decided to discuss it.
because the one that you talked about was something on the Reddit thread, "Am I the asshole?" Like AITA. AITA. r/, where a dad had threatened his son, like his son was sleeping in, son or daughter, I can't remember, was sleeping in over and over again, And he was like, listen, you have to start waking up early. And he'd seen this kid's Minecraft server. He'd built this really crazy cool castle. He'd shown him to it, or had shown it to him, and was like, wow, that's really cool. And he was very proud of it. His dad was like, listen, in traditional parent form, if you don't do the things you're supposed to do, bad things will happen. And his thing was, I'm going to delete your Minecraft server if you don't start waking up on time. So sure enough, kid didn't wake up on time. He deleted the Minecraft server. And he felt really bad for it. Like, so my question, is he the asshole in that situation?
I think yes. I mean, that kid spent probably hundreds of hours on that project. I don't think a parent would go in and destroy a kid's Lego if they weren't listening. Like, that's just kind of petty and wrong. And it's essentially the same thing. I mean, Minecraft is basically digital Legos.
It's kind of like emotionally scarring to me. That's how I think of it. And I don't think, at least like parents who don't game or don't understand video games don't think of it that way. But for me, like if something like that happened, it would just feel as a child that something I worked so hard on and put all of this effort into was so creative. And I just held it like so high. It would be like somebody destroying an art piece I worked on in front of me, like a parent coming in my room and saying, if you don't do blank, I'm going to rip this to shreds. And that's just kind of like really emotionally scarring, in my opinion, for later in life.
Yeah, I think that a more appropriate punishment would be to like change the password of your Wi-Fi so that your kid doesn't know it, so that when they go to log on to play Minecraft, then they can't get on the server. That way it's still there.
Blank. Yeah.
And then they can redeem themselves and go back to their account. But
that's for sure. The other thing is they can't fix it then. Then the child just loses everything. They can't go back and do right and gain it back because it's gone forever, which is just so harsh. So harsh.
It's definitely harsh. Some would argue, to play devil's advocate, some would argue that's like, we gave you he gave him warnings, or gave them warnings. Again, I forget. I don't remember who the child was, but when it's like, listen, if you keep doing this thing over and over again, because I don't know exactly how many times that happened, but yeah, it's weird because it's like destroying art versus just taking away someone's Game Boy. It's different from that. There's a lot of other things on social media about that kind of stuff. Like there was a story about somebody erasing someone's Steam account, right? Like they not only like changing the password, but just erasing their Steam account.
Yeah.
That's just a waste of money.
And the parent actually felt bad about it and wanted to undo it afterwards. And I think that's the thing, like these rash decisions or not understanding what you're really doing, maybe, as the parent. And when they deleted it and realized, probably all that money that they had paid for those games is now gone. Or just not understanding what was attached to that Steam account that they really deleted, maybe, was the problem. And then they wanted to get it back. But once you delete a Steam account after that month after it's deleted, it's gone forever. You're never getting those games back.
Right. And so it's like a lack of knowledge on the things. And then, of course, there's always been, I've seen these videos for years where it's like a girlfriend or parent or boyfriend or whatever destroys a video game system to get back at their boyfriend for cheating or for spending too much time playing the video game instead of spending it with them, or I don't know, who knows? Yeah, there's many reasons.
I think a lot of it just has to do with not understanding what it means to people, or like how important it can be to some people. I mean, obviously,
because if it means nothing to you,
right,
as that person who's smashing it, it's like I should be more important than this piece of plastic. It's kind of like the idea I think they always have, but I don't think they see it as we do.
I think that comes from, and again, it's like an older generation we kind of think about too, because games that they would play were like Mario. You destroy Mario, you just go get another Mario. Like there's like, oh no, I broke my Street Fighter.
Not, like continuity like that.
Right, yeah. I broke Street Fighter. I could just go buy another Street Fighter whenever I'm not in trouble anymore. But like with creative works or things you spent hours and hours and hours working on, that's just not a thing anymore. But that doesn't connect with this older generation, because they're like, what do you mean you spent I can't see it. Like, I can't see that you've spent hours doing this thing. So why would I equate it to being something that is very important to you?
Well, and I don't know if it's just like, I don't think it's really a generational thing. I think it's just like an experience thing. I mean, I'll say my sister, who's never really played video games, likes to really limit and prevent my nephew from playing things a lot of the time, which I can kind of understand in some ways. Like, obviously, he shouldn't be playing Fortnite 24/7. But at the same time, like, I just feel like she sometimes puts it over his head way too much and doesn't allow him to do the things he always wants to do because she doesn't understand what it is for him, I guess. Because she never really had that experience with video games.
Just going off of what Chris was saying, I think that there is a balance, though. Because, I mean, when we were growing up, we would, like, go outside and play tag. Or we would, like, play capture the flag or hide and go seek or stuff like that. And we would run around and build forts in the woods. And I think that there is a certain amount of that is getting lost in kids. And it's like, when I was doing my yard work today, there are all of these, oh my gosh, I sound like such an old man when I'm saying this.
We're all old men now.
No, there were all of these
too.
kids in the field across from my house. They were just like screaming at each other, like, and it sounded like a bunch of 12-year-olds on
Acid?
like a Call of Duty game, like a Call of Duty server, and it's just like, I would get into it with my buddies growing up, but I would never say the things that were coming out of these kids' mouths.
Oh boy.
And I think the balance is important. You're completely right. I kind of wish our intern was on this episode, since he has a
Call
kid.
him up.
Wait, which one?
And Fee.
We have like 9 interns, by the way.
But he does a really good balance. And when I'm over there, I see it where it's like, you know, all the kids play games and he's a gamer, so he gets it. And he allows that to happen during playtime. But there's also a point where he's like, all right, it's outside time. Stop, go. And he just like shoves him out the door and he's like, go do something else.
Well,
And that balance is important for kids.
the game that I talked about at the beginning of the episode, we're seeing it now that video games are an interactive part of daily life. Like, they're docking a spacecraft in space right now with video game controls. That's pretty wild.
That's nuts. Yeah.
And so being able to, and there's so many other things, like, I'm an audio engineer, but in order for me to be an audio engineer now, I need to know networking skills and I need to know like all of this other stuff. And so like knowing how to build a PC or knowing how to troubleshoot network connections and stuff like all of that stuff that's kind of associated with video games are really important life lessons now.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I bought my nephew a laptop that was just powerful enough to play Fortnite. That was one of the leftover laptops from work. And at the time, it was kind of, my sister was pretty hesitant about it. And now with all the stuff that's been going on with the pandemic, she was like, yeah, I'm really happy that Chris got him this laptop.
Yeah, because that's his school now.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I got it with the intention of, yeah, he's going to be able to play games on it. But at the same time, he's also going to be able to use it to learn how to use it, which is incredibly important. Like, maybe this will spark an interest in programming for him. Maybe it'll just make it so he's very, savvy with a computer, and that's good too.
Maybe he'll get really good at Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, that's a skill.
I became an adult the day I realized how cool Excel was.
Excel is the coolest
yes.
thing in the whole world.
Dude, I love
you can
Excel.
quote
That's
us
my
on
whole
that.
job now. Who knew? But I think it's like another thing with these arguments and them involving video games. I think it all comes down to a basic respect level that isn't there. Like, maybe you don't understand why this is important to me, but you should respect me enough to have a conversation in a different way. So I think that's a lot of it at the end of the day, more than anything.
Yeah.
I do think about whenever we're talking about these personal experiences, like, do we have any similar kind of experiences as far as punishments involving video games, because I know in my family, number one, we couldn't play video games during the week, so it was only like Friday nights, like was, as my father calls it, Halo night, because that's when we would go play Halo, because it was he still calls it that to this day. We call it beer and pizza night or Halo night, depending on when we refer to it. So we were only allowed to play on Fridays, and if we got in any sort of trouble, he could move Halo Night to not existing. So that was usually a pretty rough thing. But I was a good boy most of the time. So
I think I've told this story before, but I will revisit it for this topic.
Make it spicier.
So my brother and I used to play NFL Blitz. And we would always do the cheat code to do the big head. And so it was just a bunch of massive floating heads on a football field. But my brother would always beat me in the game, and he was younger than me. And so I would get so mad at him, and I just screamed at him one time. And my mom came down and she without us being able to save the game or anything, she just ripped the PlayStation off of the TV and took it in and locked it in her office in the basement.
Oh, snap.
I cried.
Goodness.
I was so sad.
Wow. That's impressive.
Listen, any man would. Okay.
I remember one time my dad, I didn't do something or something, and my dad got mad at me. And so he took away my N64, and he said I couldn't play anything on my N64 for a month or something like that. Oof. And I was devastated. And so I was trying to figure out other things to do. And I had remembered that my great grandmother, who totally did not buy this for me, but my parents said they did, we talked about before, bought me a game called StarCraft on the computer. And I didn't really play much on the
little indie game.
And so I installed it, and that became so I basically I don't know why this was okay, but I guess because he just said specifically I couldn't play on my N64 anymore. So I switched to just playing stuff on the computer.
Interesting.
That's when I started playing StarCraft.
That was before the computer was it's a computer. You can go on the internet and it takes 40 minutes to download pictures of boobs. I mean, what's he going to do? Right,
exactly. So it was kind of the idea of a computer being a method of playing stuff was completely new, but it was cool. Also, StarCraft was awesome.
StarCraft is still awesome if you ask the right people. Allison, speaking of asking the right people, what's your any did you get punished video game style?
No, I don't have much to add to this. I'm not gonna lie, guys. You don't know me when I was young. I was so perfect.
You're a good girl.
It was painful. Yeah. I was the girl who was just quiet, and I always did what I was supposed to do. As long as my grades didn't slip in school, I wasn't going to get in trouble. And I had excellent grades because I was a hyper nerd. And if I did my homework, we were allowed game time. And it was as much as we wanted, really. My mom was very lenient with it. And she just thought games were important in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, she was right. It helped me learn a lot of skills that I feel I wouldn't have otherwise. And my doctor said it helped my vision. So hey,
nice.
it was positive.
But
it did. Yeah,
it helps your your peripherals and you're
No. It helped my vision.
Oh, your vision.
Probably not anyone else's vision. Yeah, I have a certain eye disease.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't see anything. I'm pretty bad. Alex, we're over here. Alex over here. Alex over here.
Yeah. I can't really relate to this because I didn't get punishment in this way, so I'm sorry.
Too good. Just little goody two shoes.
No. Until high school,
Let's beat up this nerd, huh? Guess what? Beat this nerd up?
Yeah. Give me your lunch money.
I was that nerd, honestly.
I wonder if that ever happened to anyone ever. Give me your lunch money. What is it?
Yes, Alex.
Sorry.
I have a question for you, Allison. Because you were such a perfect child, what did you get away with? Because you knew you could, because you knew that you already had your parents believing that you were this perfect child.
That's a great question. Nothing.
What?
But in high school, I I was like this perfect student, right? My grades were great. I abided by all the rules. And then I became Daria.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, nice.
So I was like really upset by this thing that happened in the school. And so I started an underground newspaper.
Oh my God, you rebel.
Yeah. And I handed it out to people at the school, like secretly, and I felt really cool. And everybody was mad and wanted it gone. So that was the only like rebellious thing I ever did. I never tried to get away with anything with my parents because they were so cool about everything, honestly.
What was it called?
It was called Level Black.
Oh, Level Black. Alex, what are you doing? If they find out who she is,
I'm sorry.
Like, I made a blog. We had fake identities.
Oh
it was real serious.
Wow. That's amazing.
We had a MySpace, guys.
Oh, did you have music that would automatically play whenever you went to the page of the MySpace? Because that shit was annoying as hell.
Was it?
Yes.
It was local bands. It was local bands.
So I kind of want to close this section out because we're all getting old. No offense, guys. We're getting old.
Wow.
Shut up. We are.
You are. I'm still young.
I have a mustache, so that's true.
I'm still young and full of youngness. So if you had kids and you wanted to punish them involving video games, like right now. If right now you had kids and you wanted to punish them in a way that was involving video games, what would you do? And don't say nothing. That's bullshit. Be funny, goddammit.
I don't know if I'm funny, but I would limit gaming time. I think that's the way to do it. It's to monitor it in an appropriate way if it's needed.
I would set up a VPN so that it thought that I was in Russia. And I would I would find on eBay a copy of that game. I don't know if that would work. The gaming system would have to be from
one that's
Russia
region locked?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I would change the language in the game. Like I would go in and change it to some other language so that they couldn't figure it out. Or like I would change it.
Or if it's a
to
region
Spanish, and I'd be like, "Hey, go do your Spanish homework so that you can play your game."
If you knew Spanish, you wouldn't have this problem.
I think I would make it so I would go into the settings of the router and shut off their access to internet.
Yeah,
just theirs in particular. So like, like everything else, the phone works.
Would you explain what's going on, or just be like, it's probably because you didn't do blank? Oh, and just like go on about your day.
I would tell them exactly what was going on.
Okay,
and they'd have to figure it out. And I'd say, I'll turn it back on when
listen. Maybe if you did your math homework, the internet would work the right way. You know, that's usually
when
how it
you
works.
Can hack my house, you will become a man.
I think mine would be that I would change the password to all of their accounts constantly. Like if they did something wrong, I would just change the password to one of their accounts because it's just a bitch to change those things. There's so many different security things that you have to do now. So true. But yeah, that's what I would do.
What would Brian Boitano do?
What would Brian if he'd make a plan and follow through? And that plan is to end the podcast. So that's it for us this week on the Game Brew. So hey, let us know your top 5 childhood games or some weird video game related punishments you may have endured on social media at the Game Brew.
if you're a parent,
if you're a parent, because we spec a little bit older. Or you could do that on social media at the Game Brew, or you could join the Discord at bit.ly/discobrew. That's bit.ly/discobrew. Also, a huge way to help out the podcast is to give us ratings or a review on your favorite podcasting medium. And mainly, just tell your friends, your mom,
that Allison is awesome,
your cousins,
and they should listen to the podcast.
You can tell your mom.
I don't know.
Your mom might be
your mom's. Yeah,
we sound sexy. I think we sound like moms like us. You know.
Hashtag
with that mustache, nobody likes it.
Hashtag moms love the Game Brew.
Especially Dan's mustache.
Oh, right. But yeah, no, tell those people, help us grow the Game Brew crew. It's more fun with more people involved. Just like a lot of other things. And without further ado, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.